Okay, so this is going to be my remake of a video I made a while ago on another one of the channels that I really shouldn't even upload it there anyway. I really should have put it here, but I think the reason I uploaded it there is because I was trying to talk about, I don't even know what I was about to say. So anywho, so number one, schizophrenia is a spectrum and off branch of complex trauma. I know that in the media, they try to make schizophrenia seem like it's just this one thing, and that it just means that somebody's completely insane. Although, to be truthfully honest, what I've noticed is that when somebody is quote unquote insane, there really isn't any one label that can fit them. Now, of course, a lot of these labels are just the same thing with different names, and they're all mental illness is different forms of double mindedness, and it's all from trauma and generational trauma. And at the end of the day, the mental health system is just a eugenics money scheme. But, okay, what was I about to say after that? I don't even know what I was about to say. I hate making these videos. But anyway, this isn't going to be as bad as my videos usually are because I'm trying to do more, I don't want to say scripted, but I'm trying to do more stuff where, like, I have the main point written down so I don't get lost in tangents and flashbacks. But yeah, oh yeah, I remember now. So yeah, schizophrenia is a spectrum, so it's like, it's not just this one thing. Because a lot of people just think that it means that someone. Well, honestly, with the fact that schizophrenia is usually used as an abuse cover up, people really just think that schizophrenia is when somebody's saying that people, especially relatives, are abusing them and they're not. Which at the end of the day, since mental illness comes from trauma, it would make complete sense that somebody did something to the person. But really, schizophrenia is even more than that, and a lot of the stereotypical symptoms of schizophrenia are also symptoms of every other mental label you could think of, or about every other one. Then, as far as the whole off branches of complex trauma thing, something that I realized a while ago, and by a while ago, I mean probably like a year ago plus, but it definitely was after 2020. Wait a minute. Yeah, it definitely was after 2020. 2020 is when I actually started having the realization of what all these systems actually were. Or, well, no. That's when I realized what was actually going on, or at least accepted what was actually going on when it comes to the Cash for Kids system. I didn't really start piecing the Cash for Kids system together till, like, what was it, 15 or was it late 14? I don't even remember. But anywho, I realized that PD, schizophrenia, of course DID, that's obvious. And bipolar, probably was, oh yeah, ADHD, or direct off branches of complex trauma. People get bipolar after sexual abuse. I mean, of course you can get other things. Then there's anxiety, I forgot that one. DPDR should be obvious, but that's more so, I really feel like DPDR is more of a symptom than a diagnosis, because I mean, a lot of mental labels also come with the DPDR symptom. But anyway, what was I talking about? Oh my gosh. Okay, anyway, bipolar comes from sexual abuse, and BPD, obviously, that comes from. The real thing that really leads to this being BPD, is the neglect, the emotional neglect, and not having a secure attachment or secure person to attach to, like a parent, starting in childhood. That's like the main thing that really leads to BPD, because people try to make it about a whole bunch of other things, but it's really not even the other parts of trauma that really cause it. It's really like the attachment thing and not having anybody secure to attach to. That's like the main thing that really causes BPD. Because you'll notice when you listen to people's stories who had the BPD label, with that when it's actually even right, which they rarely want to give this out anyway. They rarely want to even diagnose people with BPD. But anywho, you'll notice that the upbringing was almost like the person basically didn't even have parents or really anybody, to be honest. NPD. I mean, really, with the PDs, those really depend on if you choose a victim complex and a protect myself mindset, or if you choose the I need somebody and I have to try to like be codependent and manipulate people into being around me thing, or even when it's accidental manipulation, because codependency is manipulation. I realized that a while ago, and of course the mental health professional is never going to want to tell anybody that, because it's like they really want to keep people in this victim mindset, and at the end of the day, the mental health system was never made to treat people. It was actually made to keep people from being treated, so they're not going to want to tell anybody the truth about themselves. I realized that codependency was manipulation because I was really codependent ever since like elementary. Then I had the whole lemur obsession thing, which went really, really bad with the hypersexuality disorder, but that's a whole nother story. So anywho, now to get into this. Number one. Okay, doing a lot of different drugs and or having sex with a lot of different people. This includes prostitution and also if somebody's being sexually abused. Which I forgot to say that schizophrenia comes from sexual abuse too. Just like with DID, although DID and schizophrenia is pretty similar in ways, some ways. They both mean split mind. But like I said, really all mental illness is double-mindedness. But anyway, it's like DID is like really, really severe sexual abuse, especially like SR sex trafficking or even just prostitution sex trafficking. You could probably get DID from that. I mean, if you're in there young enough, because to get DID, you have to be sexually abused. I think it was from like infancy, basically newborn to like age 7 or something like that. Or maybe it's like 10, something like that. Okay, so with the sexual side, it's like basically when you're sleeping around, you're merging with all these different people, and then it's like they're taking parts of you, you're taking parts of them, and then you start to get basically the issues they have, you can get and stuff like that, and it goes really, really left, especially because like there's so many different people, and then you start getting the personalities of all the different people and stuff like that, and so that's how you can get schizophrenia from having sex with a lot of different people, or even the sexual abuse. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why do you get messed up in general behind sexual abuse. But so what was I gonna say? I guess that mainly, or at least what I just said, that example is kind of mostly for people who are either prostituting or just, well, I mean, really, people these days see things really in a really, really warped way. But prostitution and sleeping around is about the same thing, really, except one person knows that they're doing it to get something in return, and then it's a lot of mess with that because people are just really warped these days about how things should go, which is why everything's so messed up. But that's a whole nother story. So anyway, two, when you're in an unhealthy environment too long, you have to become like your abusers or worse to survive, and or your mind will start splitting into schizophrenia. 3, living in a constant state of flashbacks, bad coping mechanisms, cognitive dissonance, and denial of abuse, and trying to stay around abusers will lead to schizophrenia. Or, well, is schizophrenia, basically. You'll notice people with this label commonly think random people around them are going to do what their past abusers did. They'll burst out crying while talking about their abuse and the abuse of others, off and on. So, I'm trying to think of an example. Basically, like somebody with the schizophrenia label they'll be having a flashback or thinking about something that happened, and you'll notice that they'll just start crying and they'll start talking about how they just want the children to be happy and that molestation shouldn't happen and stuff like that, and they'll just be going on a rant. And dang, it stinks over here. This place has a lot of sewage issues. But anyway, that's because they're basically living in a constant state of flashbacks. Okay, and 4, gaining a victim complex after trauma can make you what I call a schizo-narc. So basically, narcissistic schizophrenia. This is really the worst type. These are the ones that you'll notice have a victim complex and they constantly feel like everything's about them and people aren't helping them and all that stuff. Because when you get a victim complex, you become selfish, and when you become selfish, you start losing your mind. And you get bitter and all that stuff. And this is the second most portrayed type of schizophrenia that I see, or most pushed stereo. I'm trying to figure out a good way to say. Basically, this is like the most common one talked about, at least, and so it's a stereotype. Which, of course, there's a lot of people out there that believe that mental illness is just something for people to have. It's something that is just there to give people a victim complex, or to make people have an excuse to be lazy and do whatever they want to do to people. Which, honestly, that's really not even all that true. Because at the end of the day, if anybody's doing anything they want to do to people, it's the mental health professionals and the other people that work in the Cash for Kids system. So, I mean, you can't be mad at somebody for getting a label that they probably didn't even want anyway. But, I mean, there are some people, well, actually, there's a lot of people. I don't even say that. Really, anybody with the schizophrenia label who actually has it is gonna, like, accept that label. And it's like if you're ever around people like that, they want treatment for it. But the thing is, the mental health system isn't there to treat them. So it's like, they just go along with everything these doctors say, and they're taking these neurotoxin drugs that actually make them worse and give them physical health issues that eventually lead to death. And it's not really always a victim thing, unless, I mean, you have the schizonarc type. I would say that's probably like on the far end of the spectrum, but anyway, narcs are commonly misdiagnosed with schizophrenia and schizobipolar, which I think is the modern day schizoaffective. This makes you focus on who did what, blaming others for everything, and why you can't do better due to bitterness. You're too focused on yourself and think everything has something to do with you. You can't see others going through the same thing as you either. And something I noticed is that the people in the Cash for Kids system who act as if they're in there alone and like there aren't always other people locked up in there with them always turn out the worst. And they also never come to the full truth of what the system is, because it seems like a lot of people, and by a lot of people, I mean, well, really kids who are still in the system, basically, and adults. It's like some people rather be in denial. I was really excited once I started piecing everything together and really realized what was going on. But it seems like when I try to save other people the hassle and the trouble, of figuring out what's going on years later. Some people, they either get mad or they go into some cognitive dissonance denial mode where they're like, well, I don't really feel like that's going on, and people make mistakes and all of that bull crap. In fact, the lady that one of the Let Me Help You lunatics, which that's a long story. I explained what that is in a really, really long video that didn't have to be that long in the part 5 channel, but I'll probably make a video about it here, or I'll download the other video and upload it here, because I honestly think that I should talk about it on this channel, because a Let Me Help You lunatic actually has a lot to do with trauma and mental illness. I mean, that should be kind of obvious from the name. But anyway, one of what I call Let Me Help You lunatics that I've been around lately, ever since this big shebang, which those videos are still unlisted due to my current situation. That's on the part 6 channel. But when I turn 18, I'll make them all public, which is probably going to take a long time because I've been making a lot of videos. Well, not a lot. I made a good couple since I've been out here. But anyway, she had got a false label at definitely way past 18. I think it was kind of recent because she's like 40 to 50. I don't even know how old she is, to be honest, but I would say she's like about 50. She had ADHD, but she got diagnosed with bipolar because, of course, mental health professionals love to give out the bipolar label. Well, mostly in actual mental facilities, though, because mental facilities don't actually do evaluations. Most of them don't even have psychologists or therapists in there, but that's another story. So anyway, of course, when I talked about how the systems do that on purpose, she started trying to gaslight me and all that, and then I started talking about the whole. In fact, I wasn't even talking about the trafficking part of the Cash for Kids system. I was just talking about trafficking in general. And then she was like, hurt people. To be truthfully honest, I could get that in some situations, like in a relationship or something, but that's definitely not the case for definitely not for people in SRA sex trafficking, or really any type of sex trafficking. But I mean, a lot of the victims are born into it and stuff, and it's like that is a really, really off the wall remark to make in this type of situation. I could get if I was dating some other traumatized person, then we kept getting into arguments and fights. But hurt people is a horrific excuse for trafficking. Then I won't say a lot. I mean, when you're born into it, it becomes a cycle, and some people get trapped in there. But at the end of the day, with the people who are doing this, they do it for a reason, and it's not because they're hurt, and it's because they overall they just like doing it, because it's not even about money. I mean, they print money. The people who run even the lower branch of the Cash for Kids system, they print money, so they don't have to do anything for money. And that's what I have to tell people that think that all this stuff is about capitalism, because child abuse and the Cash for Kids system and all of that is a really big, it's an agenda, and it really has it doesn't boil down to capitalism, and it's not about money. Nothing's really about money at the end of the day. Definitely not for the people who can print it. These systems are to create a world of messed up people. But yeah, so anywho, because now I'm going off somewhere else. So that lady definitely has a lot of cognitive dissonance going on, like a lot of people do. And it's like, it's why I really, well, there's a lot of reasons why I kept making it clear that I didn't want to be around any of what I call Let Me Help You lunatics, especially in my current situation, because they're really risky. If you watch my videos from last year, which hopefully I'll remember to link, but I probably won't, but I'll try to remember to do it, from the last year's situation, which is when I first made up the term Let Me Help You lunatics. But also, I just don't like being around people that are in denial and can't see the truth about really anything in the world. And the thing is, it's not about, it's like people, okay, wait a minute. People feel like to be able to go to sleep at night and to be able to be happy, they just have to live in this brainwashed cognitive dissonance, denial, ignoring everything that goes on state. And it really doesn't even have to be like that. And then it's like the people that tell the truth about the stuff that goes on, they either get labeled off as quote unquote schizophrenic crazy people and conspiracy theorists, which is really, it's honestly really sick, especially to tell people that have experienced these systems that they're just crazy, even though mental illness comes from trauma, which I guess it makes sense that mental health professionals want to cover that part up because it makes it easier for people to call people who have been abused by these systems crazy. But anyway, not only do you get called that, or you get called slow and quote unquote retarded, but also you can get called a Debbie Downer, which I was constantly called a Debbie Downer. And that was in some of the stupidest situations. I was just asking people to do their job and actually help me in my situation at some points. And I was called a quote unquote Debbie Downer for asking people to do their job. That was, I mean, but that's what these people do. But anywho, it's not even about being a Debbie Downer, because the thing is, if people would admit the truth about what's going on and actually come together and start doing something about all these evil criminals that are doing this stuff, then it wouldn't even be a topic. Nobody would have to talk about it because it wouldn't be going on. But nobody wants to do anything about anything because everybody's scared. Everybody's scared of going to jail for doing the right thing. Everybody's scared of somebody not liking them for doing the right thing and all this bull crap and mess. And it's all really crazy. But anyway, the last one, number 5, is witchcraft. Especially from wait a minute. I don't think I started off right. So number 5 is witchcraft, because something that I noticed last year with the whole crazy cult lady situation is that she was, it's like from what she was saying, she really was coming to grips with the whole truth about mental illness and all that and how it comes from trauma. But then, because she wanted to have control over something and not feel vulnerable, she jumped into witchcraft, which is why people commonly fall into witchcraft in the first place, because they feel vulnerable and they want to have control over something or somebody. Because, of course, some people may know, at least manipulation is witchcraft, but that's another story. But now the mental health system rather call it dark psychology. But anyway, it's like, I feel like if she wouldn't have jumped into voodoo, she wouldn't even have psychosis. That's what I really, wait, no, that's the conclusion I really came down to. If she wouldn't have started doing voodoo, she wouldn't even be going through psychosis, because it's like, she had really noticed a lot about mental health and the mental health system, but then she started doing witchcraft and lost her mind. I really do wish she would have been able to get some good trauma therapy, though, because, I mean, of course she'd been through a lot, and it makes sense because, I mean, what I noticed with the little bit of time I was in school in GA is that most of the people in the school, well, it's like I wanted to put an S at the end of school, but I didn't, because it's like the specialized self-confined placement was on the campus of a school. Well, it was a part of a school. There was a whole bunch of mess where they were lying to me and my mom about what was actually going on. I put that in the description. Hopefully I remember to anyway, but I didn't really get to go in the school building a lot, so I don't really know if I should say much about the school I was at when I was in the Jim Crow placement. But at least for MTZI, most of the people there, male or female, had been molested. So, of course, everybody's confused and turned out and all that stuff. And so a lot of people had the bipolar label and all that. And that's what, that's one of the things that the crazy voodoo cult lady had went through. And it's like, if only healing was actually promoted instead of people just being drugged up and running to the mental health system for issues that they can't even help with and don't help with anyway. Because, I mean, I actually like a lot of the trauma therapy stuff that's being pushed now, but of course, a lot of the stuff that's pushed in the mental health system is just new age witchcraft, and It always has been, because now there's the shadow work. Hypnosis was, that's old. They've been doing that. It's something else that I can't even remember. It was like a third and fourth thing. But I just, I really wish that healing was promoted more. But I mean, it definitely wasn't in the past. It's promoted more a little bit now, but I still really just wish people would open up to the truth behind the whole child abuse agenda, because if more people realize what child abuse actually was and was for, I feel like maybe more people would do something. But I mean, at the end of the day, nobody should have to explain a whole bunch of philosophical stuff to people for them to know not to hurt children, to be honest. But yeah.